How's it going, guys? I'm Robert from Machado Visuals, and today we're taking a look at the new Nanlite Forza 300B. Nanlite sent this light out to me for review, and I was generally curious because COB lights are all the rage nowadays, and for good reason. LED technology is on a completely different level from when I was first starting out, so it's great seeing lights that are both affordable and high quality. The 300B comes with a carrying case, battery plate, an AC adapter, a clamp for light stands, and a remote to control the unit wirelessly. The build quality is great. The head is super tiny, and the carbon fiber design almost reminds me of an Alexa Mini. You're of course getting a Bowens mount, which has a bunch of modifiers readily available. There's actually an umbrella holder built into the yoke, so you're able to use those too if you have any layering around. You're able to power off regular 14-volt batteries, but to be honest, I actually don't own any, so I wasn't able to test this. All my batteries are gold mount since I primarily deal with the camera department. It does have DMX in and out, but also being honest here, that's something I usually leave to my gaffer, so I can't speak much on that functionality. The 300B comes with 12 programmed effects, as is the case with most lights nowadays. You get CCT loop, intensity loop, flash, pulse, storm, TV, paparazzi, candle or fire, bad bulb, firework, explosion, and welding. Now, to be frank, I actually don't like a lot of bicolor LEDs and prefer not using them if I can. I explained why in a previous video, but to recap, it's because color temperature isn't calculated linearly. It tracks what's called the Planckian locus. As most of you know, bicolor LEDs work by mixing two sets of white chips together, one cool set and another warm set, and as you dial in your color temperature, the fixture is mixing in between the two sets to give you a perceived color temperature. The issue with bicolor lights is that you'll be introducing a green or magenta shift as you travel across the spectrum. The reason I prefer using RGB lights is to account for the blackbody curve. That being said, bicolor lights are generally much more affordable and brighter than their RGB counterparts in most cases. Again, if you're looking for more clarification on this, check out my previous video on matching ambient color temperatures. The first thing I wanted to measure was max output as you change color temperatures. I prefer working with foot candles, so here are the measurements I took at 3 meters. As is the case with most COB lights, the included reflector is usually pretty spotty to maximize output. At 3 meters, there's a hot spot with a 3-foot radius, and the light starts falling off by about a stop. This usually isn't an issue if you want a really punchy source, but if you're looking for a more even spread, I actually like using the more generic reflectors you can get from Amazon. This one's from Neewer, and as you can see, the spread is much more even. Now, although the spread is much more even, remember that there's never free lunch since you lose over a stop of light or half your output. It really depends on what you need given your situation. I always preach using the right tool for the right job, and this reflector is just another tool I can add to the tool belt, should I need it. For instance, this is super helpful when you have a large piece of diffusion with just one fixture to achieve a much more even spread across the fabric, or if you need a more even key when using a book light. But if you need to just throw around the maximum amount of light possible in a general direction, the included reflector is great. Again, different tools. Now for the meat and potatoes, the color accuracy. For any light, I like measuring accuracy both in terms of color rendition, but also manufacturer specs, meaning that I like seeing how well the number on the fixture matches with the actual measured CCT. Across the board, the 300B is generally a few hundred Kelvin off. I measured a couple commonly used temps and also both ends of the range. 2700 Kelvin measured at around 2800 Kelvin with a nearly perfect delta UV, so it's pretty spot on. At 4300 Kelvin, I measured an actual CCT at around 4700 Kelvin with a slight magenta shift. At 5500 Kelvin, the actual color temperature was pretty far off, measuring at around 6200 Kelvin with a delta UV leaning slightly magenta. Lastly, at the end of the range, 6500 Kelvin measured to around 7100 Kelvin, this time with a slightly green delta UV. As a whole, the fixture's CCT readings were pretty inaccurate, but a quick trick I used to get around this is adding a label to the ballast with a manufacturer's CCT versus measured correlated color temperature. This makes it really quick and easy to dial in a precise color temperature on set without having to use a meter. If you don't have a spectrometer, I suggest borrowing one from a friend or even renting one online. In terms of color rendition, I found that 5500 Kelvin correlated to around 5100 Kelvin on the fixture. CRI and TOCI don't really mean much to me, so I won't even mention them, but its TM30 fidelity scored a 93 and scored a gamut index of 104. An SSI against daylight gives a score of 72, while the light leans slightly magenta. 3200 Kelvin actually ended up being around 3000 Kelvin on the fixture. TM30 fidelity scores a 95 and has a gamut index of 103. SSI against tungsten is 84, and the light has about the same delta UV as 5500 Kelvin. I'd rate color rendition as quite excellent with a slight magenta shift, both at 3200 Kelvin and 5500 Kelvin. Now on to a few smaller nuances. You are able to change the fan mode, but it's either on or off. There doesn't seem to be an adaptive fan mode like other fixtures, and when the fan is turned off, you're limited to 15%. Even when the fan is off on the head, the power supply fans still run, so that's important to note. Another thing I've noticed is that there's a significant CCT shift from 5100 Kelvin to 5200 Kelvin, jumping by about 300 degrees. In terms of measured CCT, this jumps from 5500 Kelvin to 5800 Kelvin in one small increment. Just something to keep in mind. One thing that's nice to have is the 90-degree 5/8 hole when mounting the yoke sideways. And this is super helpful when you have larger modifiers that would usually limit the angle when traditionally mounted. Another small detail I like is that you're able to stand the ballast both vertically and horizontally, and that you're able to flip the menu screen depending on your configuration. If you appreciate my content here on YouTube, I've recently started a Patreon to help support the channel and continue the conversation. There are a handful of exclusive perks, such as a Discord where you can better get in touch with me or the community. Hopefully this video is helpful in some way. Overall, I'd rate this as an excellent light that's really affordable for what you're getting. Although it does have the slightest magenta shift at 3200 and 5500, it's important to note that black body radiators don't always exhibit perfect delta UV in real world situations. More often than not, there will always be some variance in the field, so having a light that projects pure white isn't always absolutely necessary. I'd only really worry about green magenta shift when my ambient sources start skewing in the other direction, or if I'm trying to match to other lights with different spectral properties. Even though I don't generally use bicolor lights, the convenience of being able to quickly shift color temperature is super appreciated when you're trying to keep the momentum moving throughout the day. If you have any questions, obviously feel free to leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.